Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Engineering the Markets. My name is Jared, and it is January 5th, 2022. Second day of the new year has gone, and we are somewhere mid-range inside of our SPX expected move. As we all know, I like to mark off this expected move each and every week to give us a sense of what sort of dynamics may be occurring in the market. And overall, due to some of the more aggressive sector rotation that we have been seeing, the S&P, being a more diversified index, is seeing relatively flat performance. Market, of course, had a decent start to the year. We've pulled back slightly from a new all-time high, albeit it is not a new all-time high close. And overall, the market is somewhat mid-range from the option point of view. So our midweek assessment is that the S&Ps are kind of stuck within a bit of a smaller balanced range. And when it comes to the SPY, we can see some of that nuance starting to shape up in regards to our bull flag not necessarily having follow through as of yet, albeit we did tag that new swing high on yesterday's session. And as a shorter term trader, we can see sort of the lack of conviction in the market, which leads us to a bit of a VPOC forming around 477. So the market's been in a bit of a balanced state over the past couple of sessions, of which we've certainly had some highs and lows to take advantage of for shorter term trades. Now, that picture, of course, changes when we shift over into our tech sector. And as you recall yesterday, I proposed the idea that the market may start to get a little bit of a shakeup in regards to some of the overall strength ending in 2021. And that's going to mostly be dependent on interest rates and the bond market starting to shift from its current trading range. Now, yesterday, the focus for the market appeared to continue inside of our inflationary sectors. The likes of the TLT still pulling lower. We might get a bit of sort of an oversold bounce moving into today's session. You want to be careful, not necessarily chasing this momentum. That oversold bounce may lead to a better, short-term position for continued downside. And the market continued to reward our inflationary stocks. Financials, of course, being one of the first places that the market tends to turn to. They have a very strong correlative effect with rising interest rates, and you can see that in regards to the chart performance. You can also look into energy, which is once again a second day play, bit of a stronger mover overall in terms of just percentage gains, and testing its recent relative highs, essentially indicating that we have hit our secondary target. We sort of have our aggressive into mid-range, our bull flag to get us into the high end. And from that point forward, we want to start looking deeper out in time to look for upper targets if we do decide to break out even further. And a new area of focus yesterday was inside of the industrial sector. So industrial started off the year with less of enthusiasm. We saw sort of a decline on the Monday session. That, of course, was quickly reversed as the market started to reward some particular stocks inside of this ETF. Now, let's actually start with how this ETF is constructed. You want to understand that these are industrial-based stocks, which are often broken up into multiple different sectors, different industries. Some of the heavier ones, machinery, aerospace and defense, and then our conglomerate symbols those will probably be about 40 to 50% of this ETF, actually a little bit more. And when it comes to some of the top names here, thinking of stocks like Caterpillar, Deere, or John Deere and Company, some of our aerospace and defensive names, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon Technology, united with United Technologies, and Northrop Grumman. All of these stocks seeing really strong performance yesterday. Shifting back, we can see even stocks like Boeing, which we'll take a look at in a moment, that one more closely related to our airliner sector. Those stocks also seeing a bit of a bid. And then our conglomerates, Honeywell, Triple M, and the likes of GE. So obviously market is starting to put more focus on these inflation sensitive industries, of which we're seeing these effects take hold at different times throughout the past couple of days. Now, as I mentioned, in order for that capital flow to shift, one of two things can happen. We obviously can have multiple sectors continuing to outperform, and in those cases, the capital flow remains inside of leading sectors. You want to be thinking trending type sectors, and those should continue to hold their relative performance. Yesterday, however, we saw a bit of a warning sign inside of the NASDAQ, and specifically tech and growth, where a lot of higher multiple stocks started to see some more aggressive selling. Now, once again, these are early signs, and it is a bit presumptuous to think that this is the start of something larger. But we want to start being careful as to where these stocks are located and some of the performance that we saw yesterday. I'm calling out things like semiconductors, which outside of a few key names, some of the refiners of chips are not necessarily seeing the same downside action. Bringing up TSM and the likes of ASML, which actually had some news about one of its factories being shut down. But more so the chip retailers. These are the ones that have relatively high multiples as of late, mostly facilitated by the supply-demand imbalance that we've seen inside of the chip market. And these stocks took a bit of a downside swipe yesterday. Additionally, just general tech-based stocks, not all of them, of course, being hit the same way, but we're seeing larger selling in higher market cap leaders. Bringing up Microsoft as our key example for XLK, bit of a downside move, and more specifically, closing below the 50-day moving average. That's sort of that early sign that the trend, which has held above and even had sort of a false breakdown look, is starting to possibly break down. I want to note the volume here more specifically than just where we closed. Additionally, some other stocks that took a bit of a tumble, one of our favorites, of course, being Tesla. We saw the enthusiasm based on those Q4 numbers. And of course, yesterday with that almost complete reversal, obviously near some short-term resistance, we're near swing highs in the stock. So it's not unusual to see a bit of a sell as we have completed what a lot of people will sort of dictate as a retest or a back test of an island reversal. This is an area of interest for the stock. And of course, now that we've sort of closed up this daily gap structure, we did have a more aggressive turnaround play. So obviously looking for the pullback here to either be bought, or if it does sort of collapse our enthusiastic buying, that would represent a more exhaustive gap for the stock. We'd want to be careful of future downside as we have made potentially a weekly lower high. Now, across the board, what is happening, of course, with tech taking a bit of downside, some of our inflationary sectors back in play, and then with other strength in consumer staples and some sort of mid-range trading inside of utilities, is that the S&P tends to trade a bit flat in those periods of time. Ultimately, the diversification of the S&P allows for that volatility to sort of even itself out so long as you have some sectors leading. And this is where things like a heat map can really come into play. You can see that divergence in regards to what sectors are pushing, which sectors are pulling, even noting things like healthcare, which have been on a bit of a decline over the past couple of days. And it's even more evident when you look at stuff like the Russell. These are more biotech type healthcare stocks. But when healthcare as a whole is on the decline, usually biotech as a more risk on, very speculative sector in general, high risk, high reward, that also starts to sell off, and it's usually much more aggressive. You can see that with the likes of some ETFs seeing larger reversals intraday, and ITB with our larger sell-off near the highs, facilitated by the pullback in XLV. We still want to be watching this one for pullback buys because it did make new swing highs, but ultimately we're talking about short-term play here, and this downside pressure is putting some lower performance in the S&Ps and in the Russell, which so far has been challenged by the 50 period and a bit of a daily gap structure. So some things that started to show up in yesterday's session. We talked briefly about these in the chat. Some agricultural products, especially in the futures market, have started to perk up. You want to be thinking things like corn and soybeans for sort of your generic agricultural products. These are also very important products for meat and farming, as they provide sort of the initial feeding material for livestock. And then some coffee volatility as well. I don't necessarily have a ticker for coffee offhand, but that can easily sort of facilitate itself in coffee retailers or anyone who is sensitive to coffee prices rising and falling. Now, the relationship here is not necessarily directly correlated. It might actually be inversely correlated. You want to be thinking that if my particular stock or company is buying coffee and the prices are rising, that puts a bit of a downside pressure in these coffee producers, or sorry, these coffee retailers. So just Starbucks as the more obvious example, seeing some of that downside pressure yesterday, albeit this is a consumer discretionary, and consumer discretionaries, wrong ticker, consumer discretionaries are also selling off as on yesterday's session. So ultimately mixed bag, lots of things to focus on whether you're bullish or bearish. Knowing which ones to kind of spot for opportunity is going to be key moving forward, because the market is going through some rotational efforts. You also want to be thinking about strategy here, because we are on Wednesday's session coming into FOMC minutes, and that's going to be at about 2 o'clock Eastern during today's session. So that volatility, what is proposed and announced during these FOMC minutes, the ultimate effect on the bond market, which continues to be sort of our risk-based factor for now, that continued dollar strength, just keep reiterating that each and every session, looking for this to subside for equity strength moving forward. And then a more specific item in regards to our skew, and I'll put this on a line chart to see that nuance. Our skew continues to remain elevated, which means from the perspective of just this indicator, there is much more hedging to the downside as opposed to direct shorting or selling the market at this time. Now, the skew has remained elevated for a long period of time throughout 2021. We saw one of our steepest moves from high to low during the July to September and October period. This, of course, was the actual correction of the market in September. And then during some of the volatility of December, we also saw the skew go through a bit of a cycle as well. As we are getting into those higher readings, it can be advantageous to either watch the performance of the skew in order to assess whether people are stepping in with closer to at-the-money puts, essentially shorting the market using derivative products, or are we still seeing a lot of downside risk that's simply being hedged in the case of the market taking an unexpected turn. Now, regardless of the situation, this can provide opportunity for option traders. One thing I want to kind of showcase here, how to look at this in the option market, is to start to bring up these products and look out in time to see where that implied volatility is concentrated. The idea here, you want to be looking further out in time and looking for places where the implied volatility, along with the skew of the puts in this market, bring up something like wider put ranges. These are higher IV puts, very far out of the money. And the market is pricing these relatively high compared to closer at the money puts in regards to their implied volatility, which makes for some potential premium selling opportunities. So, on a grander scale, you want to be thinking, instead of going to short dated series, selling what is essentially very low implied volatility. That's going to be true no matter which market you really look at. It's obviously going to be much lower in the shorter term, but we're also talking about a market that continues to breach these ranges. Instead of selling in the shorter series, you may want to consider moving further in time, selling future dated series premium, and using that to buy shorter dated premium, looking for more volatility in the weeks to come. So ultimately, these strategies are a bit complex. They require a bit of nuance in regards to looking at your portfolio. What sort of exposure do you want to add to your overall risk profile? But what tends to happen is, as the market can grind higher, by selling some of these hedging puts that the skew is advertising is elevated, you can collect that premium, use it to buy shorter dated trades, and essentially have your portfolio be working to not only collect some of that elevated premium, but get yourself some risk exposure in the short term. And that is oftentimes a very advantageous strategy whenever the market continues to breach its expected move. This, of course, being seen on things like expected move strategies, where you have breaches outside of what the option market has priced to be a normal week of volatility. So let's see, 10 minutes left. Some, I guess, wrap-up notes for today. I have a few things we can look at. As we continue to look at bonds, one thing to remember for longer term scenarios is that the bond yields right now are still in a state of a relative flattening. We have our 20 and 30 year, which continue to remain inverted. So our 20-year interest rate is higher than our 30-year. And the market may begin to focus, especially if we see the 5, 7, and 10 start to elevate. We might want to start focusing on the flattening of shorter or mid-range interest rates. I think for the most part, the market likes to focus whenever the 7 and 10 become very flat. And if they do invert, that's our first sort of leading indicator for a market that may be headed not only from an economic side, but also from an equity side into either a flatter performance or even advertising a possible recession. Now, all of this is much longer dated information. It's a leading indicator in the sense that it predicts, but it doesn't necessarily trigger. However, it is information that the market continues to generate for us. And with the 7 and 10 year so close, we may want to continue to watch this for, is that curve flattening further, especially with information out of the Fed? And what does that look like for the stock market moving forward? What sort of pressure does it put on different sectors? And where can we position ourselves best to take advantage of the changing of the guard, which is sort of the theme for the week? Sector rotation, lots of movement overall, and what drivers are forcing the market to reposition themselves and reassess the valuation of different companies. Okay, so last but not least, we will be looking at these tickers inside of the pre-market prep, but I wanted to call out a few possible stocks to watch today, some trade ideas for the intraday session. We'll start off with a stock like Beyond, which had some news regarding new product advertisement and offerings for essentially, I'll just call it a product for fried chicken. Now, this stock, of course, has had some volatile trading sessions in the past. And what I want to call to attention is the overall downtrend that has been present for a long time. We're looking at sort of a 4-hour downtrend, a daily downtrend. The stock has certainly been beaten up. This is a very early sign for a possible bottom. And we've seen a couple of these before, most of which didn't have much follow through. But when it comes to an intraday session, one thing you want to look at is yesterday's session and where are we starting today. What I like about this particular stock is we have a down session, a little bit of a higher volume looking for a swing low. So the market was trying to close at a new low. And today we're starting with a gap up open, not only above this close, but we are back above our swing low. You could mark something like right here, this being more of a test. And more specifically, we're gapping above 2 to 3 days of downside activity. And what this can do, of course, in the right conditions, so long as this doesn't get sold into once again, is provide sort of that initial squeeze where shorts started to look for the downtrend continuing, a level 2 type gap where you're gapping over some shorter term resistance, and more specifically, you are trapping bears inside of the market, bears who anticipated downside but didn't get it. And that's a really great technical setup for that initial squeeze. Obviously, if the market likes the news, that catalyst can provide more demand, and that can get you sort of that nice reversal so long as we get the right signals intraday. So I'm liking BYND for more of an intraday play. We may also want to focus on some more speculative EVs. Now, yesterday, pretty much everybody was focused on Ford, which had one of the best performing sessions in the past year. We're talking about just relative range, The overall volume was the highest we've seen all year. And this is a very clear breakout and runaway gap setup where the market has broken our bull flag. This is the first sign of continuation. Our second day, that runaway trade, and that's when things can get really expansive because the market is essentially in momentum mode. We're looking for where the pricing wants to go moving into a new range. And these are monthly ranges that we're trying to enter. So it's a very aggressive move to the upside. Might be a bit unsustainable in the future, but ultimately intraday very strong. This is with a backdrop of course, Tesla selling off intraday. Now the market might start to focus on some speculative names. These are stocks that necessarily haven't performed very well, along with have some questionable business practices, along with things like maybe a poor track record as of late. That doesn't necessarily mean that the stock is selling into bids, but you can get these days where the market sort of rewards some of these more speculative plays by taking the profits from the more guaranteed names, moving them into speculative. It's a typical cycle. You often want to be thinking about leaders, laggards, speculative, and that can complete sort of a cycle of either bullish or bearish performance in multiple asset classes. It works in crypto, it works in the stock market, and in this case, we might have something on our hands, the likes of Nikola, which does have some fresh news, but more importantly is starting to bid higher and has reversed its hourly downtrend. These are sort of that initial room for bulls to catch a pullback, starting to find our base of support. This was around these prices here, a little bit below 10. You see the compression of the range, and now we're starting to get that climb. We want to be looking for maybe some short-term targets based on the recent expansion, and then obviously looking for weakness intraday if this is unsustainable. So some opportunity across some of our gappers. The rest of the gappers list, unless it has improved, is probably a bit lackluster today, but all you need is one good trade, one good stock. I can tell y'all that yesterday my focus was pretty much exclusively on the best of the best. And that allowed for a lot of us, including myself, some of our mods, and hopefully a lot of the community, to really nail the stock that was leading the way yesterday, which I believe in terms of just relative performance was Ford. Of course, some of our new stocks in play with industrials also quite opportunistic. So with that said, my name is Jared. This is Engineering the Market. Happy Wednesday to everybody. Happy hump day. And hopefully we can see some of this performance move into different sectors, take advantage of setups as they are occurring, and try not to chase too much of this outperformance. A lot of these will eventually pull back. They'll give you better risk to reward. Just look for those moments in time. Obviously, the bond market may be a bit of an oversold bounce. We can get those pullbacks and get into a possible uptrend that is forming in these sectors. So with that said, stay tuned for pre-market prep. We'll talk more tomorrow.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the pre-market prep. I hope everyone's having an amazing morning. Hope you guys had an incredible day yesterday. Good morning, Norm. How are you doing today, my friend?
Good morning, brother. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good. Seeing why my trade ideas just disappeared here. We'll bring that back. Okay, there we go. Good, man. I'm really, really good this morning. Thank you everybody for the well wishes, asking, how the family is. I appreciate that very much. Everybody's like over the hill now, so we're actually doing pretty good. So
Nice.
thank you guys. Appreciate that. All right, guys, let's get into it. We had a pretty interesting day yesterday, to say the least. Let's look at some of our hold on, let me stop this these messages here, but thank you guys. To stop the alerts, I can still see them. Very good. Let's take a look over at our watch list from yesterday, starting with probably one of the choppiest stocks I've seen in a very long time. It was CCL. CCL had extreme chop, guys. I mean, look at this here. It was the first one on my list. Just horrible all day long, really. Not just the start of the morning, just the entire day was pretty bad here. So that was CCL. Apple just refused to sell off this first hour or so, or 2 hours, as the SPY was selling off. It was one of these stocks that, again, just probably had no business selling off, just because the SPY kind of sold off a little bit here, and it finally gave in. And you see the nice drop here coming down to some levels there. So that was Apple yesterday. Neo had a beautiful sell off here, just an incredible downtrend here. I think yesterday, at least on my watch list, the only two stocks that were pretty strong for us was Ford, which was incredible. We never seen Ford do anything like this, but yesterday heavily in play, very nice to trade. And some of the banks like West Fargo. West Fargo was also very nice here, taking off. Then we had Twitter, which is a beautiful sell-off. AMD also amazing sell-off. Lucid, I don't recall Lucid as much. Yeah, it sold off, but not as crazy as like a Neo, AMD, and Twitter. I added last minute, as we were preparing there for the market open. So again, very, very interesting day. We'll see what today brings. Our gappers list already this morning. Not looking great. I see some of the names on here. Probably the best thing here is a BYND. So we'll get into what's going on there. But outside of that, not a whole lot going on. So, Noam, let's get into the market pulse and kind of see what's going on there.
Yeah, so about 15, 20 minutes ago, we had ADP employment report come out. Private sector payrolls came in at 807,000. I'd seen estimates between 375 and 400, so substantially stronger than anticipated. That having been said, the jobs data that came out yesterday was not that encouraging, with job openings dropping by 500,000 in November. And I think the 4.5 million people leaving their jobs in November, I believe, was the largest in history in a month, but I could be, those are quits specifically, not being fired. I think that was the highest ever, but I'm not quite sure on that. And then market services PMI, it will be at 9:45, and the FOMC minutes from the last meeting will be out at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Be nice to see that, to get a little insight as to what the FOMC committee is thinking as far as rates for next year, not just the policy announcement, but what they're actually discussing. So we'll see.
All right, we will definitely see what's going on there. Guys, let's take a look at our gappers list this morning, and hopefully we can find some good stuff here. I'm going to go ahead and Control A, Control X, remove our watch list from yesterday, and let's make sure this thing is all linked up nicely. There we go. And let's see what we have here. Let's start with
Sheldon,
EWTX.
I
Go
gotta
ahead.
point out the job quits. Some people are like, quit to take a better job, quit to start day trading. I like Sheldon's. He quit to dance on TikTok. I wish you all the luck in the world, brother.
Yes, yes. Um, EWTX here, guys. Up 20%. Very light volume. Again, just don't like what I'm seeing here at the moment. 24 million shares float, but again, this thing needs a little bit more work at the moment. I'm not gonna add it to my list just yet. It doesn't look great.
It's a
LG,
biotech with some phase
yeah.
one data. That's what's popping it. So
All right. No, if they get the volume, usually that catalyst can do very good things, but the volume
it
is
can
just not
also be a
there.
very, very difficult thing to trade, especially
Hmm.
for somebody that doesn't trade a lot of biotechs.
Yeah,
They move very quickly.
you got to know how to trade those. And again, if you're just starting out, just avoid those because they can be very difficult. LGVN this morning, this pre-market action looks very interesting, looking good right now. 2.6 million shares flow, and we are up 22% with some good volume, guys. 3.1 million. See the difference in volume here? This pre-market, this looks
Yeah,
pretty
for
nice.
sure.
I
I'm glad you
have this
pointed
on
that
here.
out. Like you said, 2.7 million shares, high short float, just shy of 30%. And actually, I have it on FinViz at 54%. So, um,
Yeah.
we'll see. Who knows which one of those is correct. Either way, it's elevated. They had news initiating a phase 2 trial on an Alzheimer treatment. So,
Looking good right now, guys. Look at this pre-market action. A nice pop here early on to get everybody's attention. The volume did follow through, and you're getting a kind of second leg here towards the top, maybe. Looking good there. WEGO, excuse me. This one here, it is up 13%, but has given a lot back this morning from its previous highs in the pre-market. So, interesting. They got the volume. It just seems like the gap is just kind of getting eaten up here. So, I'm not sure what to expect. We'll put it as a possible. This pre-market
not my
action is just a
fave. And
little
it's
bit
out of the
weird.
UK, which doesn't help because
Oh, it
tickers out of
is.
the UK
Yeah,
usually trade pretty terribly.
yeah. This one has a weird pre-market action, so we'll put it as a possible just because they do have some volume here, which is interesting. They are trading decent, but let's see if we can find something better. BYND this morning they're up 8%. Not a whole lot of volume. I know they have a lot of. Is this KFC thing right happening? Did you
Yeah,
look?
it's
Did you
happening.
look
They've
that
been
up?
testing it. They're rolling it out for a limited time. I'm curious to see what that does. Obviously, they're getting pop on the initial news. We've seen this, man. Ever since
Yeah.
this IPO'd, whenever a restaurant brings it in, it pops. Um,
Hmm.
it does have a quite high short float now,
Yeah.
36, 37%, depending on the source you look at. If you look at that, I know some people might be thinking or saying short squeeze. It's going to have to go up a lot more. I mean, if you just pull out on a daily,
Hmm.
there's nobody with a substantial short position that a pop to 66 is going to freak out.
Yeah, they're
It's
not
just
worried
sitting at
about
these
that at all.
lows.
I mean, guys, this thing dropped for
They might see it
150.
as a chance to add to it. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, good point there. No, I'm not sure how much that's really going to play a
We'll
factor
see.
in here. We'll see. We'll add BYND here as a secondary for now. IMMX low flow that was active last it was this week, early this week. Again, they're on their third day, and the daily doesn't look pretty here. Every time it gaps up, it sells off. We don't have shares for sure. I just don't like what's happening here. Even with the volume, this 1.2 million. It just doesn't look clean at all. So I'm gonna skip on it for now. NKLA this morning they are making some noise. 794,000 shares traded. I don't like this stock as much, but the pre-market seems to be coming alive a little bit here. But we've seen it do this in the past, and it hasn't done much. We had one gap up here which actually ran up. I just don't know how much buying we can put into this. We'll take a second look on it. NKLA here,
But they,
800,000.
but they had
4.5.
somebody say they would sign a letter of intent to buy 10 trucks.
10 trucks is going to make this move. Man, that is scary.
And then I guess earlier too, there was an announcement that they've dropped a $2 billion patent suit against Tesla as well. So
Yeah.
you've kind of got conflicting things there.
Gotcha. We'll put that on there. GRTS this morning, huge drop yesterday. Not a whole lot of volume today, so I'm not sure what is going on here. This might have been overshadowed with a lot of the other stuff we are looking at, guys, that look very well. 17 million shares traded yesterday. Normally, they don't trade heavy volume at all. Their daily's pretty wacky. I think this might have been just a one and done type thing. I don't think we're going to get anything great today on it. I could be
Yeah.
wrong, but I'm going to go with my gut on this.
Yeah.
That covers our gapping up list. Let's see what's gapping down. RELI. This thing is on our gappers list almost every other day. It's just again, I don't like the way it trades. I looked at it before. I'm gonna skip on it, guys. 1.1 million shares flow. Not a whole lot of volume right now. Well, let's skip over to RARE. Oh, this is scary. Look at the price action on this. You're barely getting above a million shares traded here on a regular basis. So I just don't see this
No,
being
it's a
good.
REIT.
Ah,
It's a
so
REIT.
yeah.
They had a secondary. They dropped on news of their secondary. I just don't see much here to play with.
Yeah, yeah, same here. ITCI, I believe we've seen this before as well. Not great, guys. Yeah,
Itchy.
we'll see. It is missing a letter here. This is or a few letters actually.
I
This
don't
is
want to be itchy.
yeah. This looks
And this is
itchy
on a
here.
secondary as well.
Yeah, horrible catalyst. For sometimes, for most of the time for intraday trades. PDD, they are down 2.4. Had a nice drop yesterday. But again, we had a couple of things that dropped very well yesterday. AMD, Twitter, Neo, all on our list that look very good. This one did take a drop here. Maybe a continuation today. We'll have to see. They have not been doing well. Obviously, look at this daily in the last 2 days, showing a lot of that losing some very key levels of support, especially yesterday. Look, we lost this 55 level there. We try to hold that all December, looks like. We drop below that. Do we have more room towards the downside? Could be interesting. I know a lot of you
We've
guys
got-
like this one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's kind of a common thread here, the last three on the gappers list, and I'm looking at a couple others. We'll get to that in a second. But these China tickers, I believe it was Jeffrey Gunlock, who's a famous bond trader. He essentially came out and said, you just China is uninvestable. You can't touch it. So I've actually found a decent amount of luck in the last few days shorting the China names that have popped. So
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I agree that they are very scary stocks to think about, long term, even short term. Sometimes they look scary to trade. You just never know. We've seen so many crazy stuff happen with these stocks. You just never know. PDD here, guys. We'll put it on here again. I'm not sure how much this is gonna play out today. Neo is down 2.1 this morning, so this should be good. Volume right now only 350. Had a nice red day yesterday with many other stocks as well. We'll add Neo to the list here. We'll see if that volume can pick up. 350 is not bad, but we seem better even early on in the morning for Neo. So let's see where that heads to. Norm, anything you like on your end this morning?
yeah, kind of like I mentioned along those same lines, Neo Baba and other anything Chinese that pops, I've had
Mhm.
my eye on. And then also PFE and mRNA were actually pretty decent yesterday to the short side. So I've got my eye on those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, PFE. I remember you guys calling that out in the chat as well. PFE was definitely active. Yeah, we had some stock. It was a weird day. We had some stocks that never usually do anything, do some pretty good stuff. Starting with probably the trade of the day on Ford, which look at this daily on Ford, this
It's a
daily
strong
bar
candle.
here. A very, very strong candle. Crazy volume, 311 million, which is quite a bit there, even for Ford. They trade heavy volume, but that's a lot even for them. So yeah, I don't know what Ford is going to do today. I'm good. Let's put it as a possible because I'm just interested to see what is today going to look like for them. They already have 1.5 million shares traded, but don't put a lot of weight on that. This stock trades heavy volume, guys. On a day when it's not in play, let me just show you. It trades 105 million easily, and it doesn't do anything, right? So the volume on this stock is always extremely high
Yeah.
compared to others. All right, let's take it to the room, see what we have here, my friends. Let's start with who do we have here? Let's start with Mr. T. All right, PFE. Yes, we do have it. That was great yesterday. Let's see what happens today. Let's go one up. Tunde, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Tunde, you're giving us MYNZ. MYNZ. Oh, we have a nice little pre-market activity happening here. Up 91%, 7 million shares traded so far. So definitely some good volume. This is what's the float on this? I'm not getting it on Trade Ideas.
Small.
Yeah.
It's German company. They did have some news this morning. I'm not going to try to interpret that. I've got the total outstanding shares at 11.7 million on FinViz.
Mhm.
Doesn't say float, so it could be anything from there below
Yeah.
if their data is correct. So
Looking
obviously,
very active, guys. We'll put it down here in the low risky pile for right now, but definitely very active. Very careful on this one. It's explosive this morning. Heading down, we have XOM. Fabio, you're giving us a few. You've been watching XOM for a couple of days here, so hopefully that's been paying off. It looks like it has, man. Look at the daily here on XOM. Usually not the way it trades, but I know you've been watching this for a couple of days, so hopefully you've been taking advantage of it. Interesting here as we're getting above this level of resistance, slightly above that this morning. Let's see if it's going to continue here. I won't be watching it, but I know you've been on that one, so congrats if you're taking advantage of that. BA this morning, possible breakout there. Volume is a little bit light. I do like BA though, so we'll see what BA does. That daily looks interesting. All right, let's head down. We have, you know what, on the banks did very well yesterday. We have Bank of America. We had West Fargo was very, very clean yesterday. Again, all of them just the last couple of days just shooting up nicely here. Citigroup, not as much actually. Looking at the rest of the banking stocks here. I'm not sure what's in it for them today. I mean, West Fargo had a couple of nice big days here already. They're going to continue on this strength. I highly doubt it. Again, just my off the wall opinion here. We'll put West Fargo because I think that was probably one of the cleanest ones yesterday. We'll see if that does anything today. Ford, I have Ford as a possible just to see what happens there as well. Nvidia, AMD, these guys yesterday. Nvidia against Nvidia sell off. I know AMD sold off. Yeah, Nvidia sold off too. AMD was a clean sell off as well. I'm gonna watch AMD, guys. I like AMD. The way it's setting up here on the daily, right? We're right at a very important level of support resistance. This previous day close line. Look at this here. How many touches we have on this on the daily? So we're right below that. That seems to be a nice area where this stock comes back to. Let's see if we're looking to lose that or find some support. Another one that it will be fun to watch today is Apple. Apple, although it sold off yesterday, had a very, very choppy start. Again, just one of these stocks that probably has no business selling off.
So essentially, the theme yesterday was I think the Dow finished a little bit higher. The SPY finished a hair lower, essentially flat, but the NASDAQ had a pretty nasty dip. So
yeah.
So tech getting hit.
Tech getting hit quite a bit here. All right, guys. MU, we have not seen that in a bit here. MU's daily looks good, pretty light right now as far as volume, not doing a whole lot. So I'm gonna keep it off my list. I got AMD on here as my semiconductor for the day. But thinking about AMD, you could think about MU, you could think about Nvidia and any other ones out there, any tech companies that might do something today. All right, let's stop here. I want to take a look at what we have in our chat this morning. I'm just gonna look at one more though. PLTR. Let's look here. PLTR. I know
Phil,
that's
we need your list.
Yeah, Phil. Where's Phil? I haven't heard from Phil in the last couple of days. Hopefully he's well.
He's here.
He's there? Okay, excellent. All right, let's take a look at our YouTube chat this morning here, guys. MU, we looked at, again, I'm watching AMD, and I could put those all in that same category. MY and Z, we do have. Bank of America. I see a lot of you guys throwing out Bank of America. Why Bank of America specifically?
I would say it doesn't move very much, but then it'll go $10 today. Everybody's rubbing Ford in my face.
Yeah. We definitely seen different activity out of these the last couple of days. Yeah, so I have West Fargo. I know Bank of America has a little bit more volume, but for me, West Fargo tends to move a lot better
Moves
at
more.
times.
Yeah, in general.
You know, in general, they can move more than Bank of America. So
Every
and
dog
usually
has its day.
we saw yesterday, right? All the banking stocks were up, right? They all had a big day. So you can watch either one. West Fargo is going to be the one for me there. Roku, we haven't played Roku in some time, and I don't think
it's
they're
down 4.5% this morning. I don't know.
I
how I missed that
actually
one.
it dropped off this range.
low
Look at this
volume.
range. It was
Yep.
stuck in, right? So we fell out of that. The last few times we actually broke out of that range, that channel there, we have done some stuff, right? Look at this drop here. Look how big the candles get outside of this range. Could be interesting.
It got a initiation out of a analyst I'm not familiar with.
Mhm.
Underweight 136 price target on it. So
Okay. All right.
that's
Well, we'll put
probably what's doing a little bit of that this morning, but it's not on much volume, and it's kind of a no-name analyst.
Yeah. We'll see. What's interesting here is the breakout of this channel here, this range. We'll see if that means anything for them today. Plug. We'll take a look at a few more, then we'll head over to announcements. Plug this morning. No, I don't think it's really in play. AMAT. No. Definitely not in play today. Very light on volume.
Other ways to play semis, if that's what you're looking to do. TSM's been super strong recently. Of course, you can always go to SOXL or SOXX or SMH or you know.
Yeah.
Shake my head. What the hell am I saying? I'm
EN.
losing it. I'm tired, man. This This is the first day back at school, so I'm trying to get back in the routine.
Yes. SENS, no, we've seen this before. It doesn't trade very well. It pushes a lot of volume around, sitting on the American Stock Exchange, and those tickers tend to be a little bit weird on that exchange. You get crazy volume, and they just don't move nicely. All right, cool. I think we are all set here, guys. I want to see if I miss anything that looks good. T, we know this is not great. Yeah, I mean, it had a big day a couple of days ago. The daily here looks interesting in the last couple of days. I'm just not a big fan of the way this thing trades at all. So be careful. You're going to be watching that today. All right, guys, let's head over to our community events and announcements. We'll come back and fine tune this list.
All right. John's webinar should be posted. Today's Wednesday? Should be posted soon. If it's not already, next Tuesday, 8 p.m., you've got Ed talking about his options flow scanner and how he trades based on that. So be sure to check that out. It's not something that BBT's had a lot of exposure to. So it should be an awesome webinar to attend and get some new info. Then tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, you've got Dr. Kenneth Reed's Market Dynamics Part 2. It's going to be talking about the two general types of traders, trend traders or range traders. He's great at mixing actual technical market stuff with psychology. Check that out, 8 p.m. tonight. Then 5 p.m. next week, we've got Kreda talking about her Mental Edge series, Part 1, how to think and trade like a professional athlete to gain a mental edge in trading. If you have not, go visit stocktradingsimulator.com. It is the free web-based, aka you don't have to download any software onto your machine, application to our replay scanner. You can also enter your email at the bottom. We won't spam you or sell it. That will give you access to and like 2 emails a week from Eamon and Simon to give you homework assignments to trade in that platform. If you're watching on YouTube and haven't been in the chat, you can use the promo code PREMARKET24 to get a discount off the intro membership, which is 7 calendar days, 5 trading days in the room. If you just go to bearbulltraders.com, on the homepage, scroll down about halfway, you'll see that test drive now button. Click that, use the promo code PREMARKET24. When you fill out the info, it'll bill you one time, does not recur. And also, a couple more days, you can use the promo code HOLIDAYS40 to get 40% off the annual Elite membership, which gives you access to all of the webinars and everything else involved with BBT. 40% off and a month of free DAS simulator. Kreda, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Norm. I'm good. Thank you. How's it all going for you?
It's good. My son went back to school for the first time in 2.5 weeks, so I'm a little bit out of my routine. I'm trying to get back into it, wake up a little bit, and we'll get going. We'll make it through. It won't take a couple of days, and I'll be used to the same old again. So
some of the advice today then might.
I was thinking that actually when I saw your message this morning. You're going to be talking about the January blues, so I'll let you take it away.
Cool, thanks. So in January, everyone's aware, or most people would be aware of the idea of the January blues. And some people might also have heard of Blue Monday, which is technically the third Monday in January. That was actually made up by a PR firm, but it has some relevance. So we know that January can be a difficult month for people. You've spent a lot of money over the holiday season, at least in the Northern Hemisphere or where I am, it's cold enough. And, it's generally kind of low ebb time of the year. And often people can feel quite low in themselves. So we are using Wednesdays to take care of the person as opposed to the performer. So I just wanted to actually talk a little bit about self-care. And as always, and I've talked about this a lot, it does also help your trading performance. So when you're looking after you and taking care of your emotional well-being, all of that, it actually helps your trading. But I'm going to focus this segment more on looking after you, the person. So it's really important to be proactive about self-care. And when I'm talking about self-care, I mean looking after your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, your physical well-being, and your spiritual well-being. And a lot of people leave that as a concept until they actually hit a really rough patch and they're really struggling, and then they start to think about it. But actually, the ideal way to approach this is to actually be proactive about it every day so that it becomes something that's part of your routine. And if you can do that, you'll actually see an elevation in your trading performance, but you'll be a happier, more resilient person overall. And it's really important to actually take this or face it head on and make it become something that is actually part of your routine and that you embrace. But what does that actually look like in practice? The first thing is being aware of the importance of your perception of events or situations. So really, this might resonate if anyone's ever had an experience of maybe having some big problem going on in your life that you just can't figure out, and you've been trying to think about it loads of different ways and you just can't find a solution. And then for whatever reason you walk away and you come back to it a while later after just giving up and doing something else, and then suddenly it presents itself. The answer is there, available to you. Or another example would be if you have had a lack of sleep for many nights and something's going on in your life and you feel really stressed about it, can't see a way out of it, and then you get a good night's sleep and the whole thing looks different in the morning. In both of those situations, nothing has actually changed about the circumstances. It's your perception of them that's changed. So in one example, you have more energy and therefore you're able to see solutions where you hadn't seen them before. In the other one, you've actually given yourself a break. So you've stopped trying to wrestle with this challenge and you've walked away, and that's actually unlocked things for you. But the key is that your perception is really important in terms of when you're actually struggling with stress or personal life challenges. So how you interpret those events and the lens that you bring to them is going to actually influence how much they affect you. So the first piece of advice I have from a practical perspective about looking after your mental and emotional well-being and de-stressing, I suppose, is to be really conscious of the way that you are thinking about challenges in your life. So whether that's challenges in relationships with other people or stress, financial trouble, whatever it is, it's how you actually perceive that is what is going to make the difference in how it impacts you. So the next piece of that is then to understand that you can actually shift how you think about these things. So just because you, say, are a person that often sees the difficulties in situations or maybe automatically goes to the pessimistic side of things if you're under stress, that doesn't mean that you have to keep continuing that pattern. You can actually make an active, proactive effort to shift how you see these challenges. So rather than feeling overwhelmed and feeling like whatever's going on for you is kind of hopeless and you're burdened by stress, try and think of the first tiny action that you could take to untangle that whole knot, if you want to call it a knot. Let's give it a visual. So what's the very first action you could take that could untangle that? Try and look at the smallest way that you could start improving that situation and just take that action. So often we feel overwhelmed by events or circumstances because it seems too big for us to actually tackle, and that stops us from taking any action at all. But if you can just get over that piece of overwhelm by taking one action, that will often start the ball rolling and you'll feel motivated and equipped to actually, continue on that path and address the whole thing. So my first piece of advice is just, if you find that for whatever reason this January you're feeling in a bit of a slump, see if you can shift the way that you're looking at whatever situation it is that's hard for you, and see if you can just take one tiny action that is going to start you on the path to addressing it. So often just being proactive and facing things head on is the biggest, most impactful thing that you can do. So that's one piece of it. The second piece is just to give you a kind of roadmap for how to integrate looking after yourself, your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being on a daily basis. And it boils down to 3 simple steps. So the first one is to actually be honest with yourself about how you're feeling. And this comes back to self-awareness. We talk about this all the time in trading, but the more you understand how you're feeling, you're in tune with your thoughts, you understand how they all link with your behaviors, the more you'll be in charge of your own actions and in charge of your own well-being. So the first piece is to actually be honest with yourself, allow yourself to admit to yourself if you're feeling under pressure. That's really important, because often people don't do that, and they only know they're under pressure when they see the behaviors that they're taking. So that could be drinking too much or getting angry, the road rage example we used the other day. So it's easier and more straightforward if you can just admit the feelings to yourself before it ever gets to you taking some kind of action that disrupts you. So the equivalent in trading would be if you were feeling like you wanted to take revenge on the market, and instead of actually pausing and admitting that to yourself, you just go in and keep trading, well past your daily loss limit. So that also can occur in real life in terms of our personal life and our personal well-being. So the first one, be honest with yourself about how you're feeling. The second one is to make space to actually connect with yourself. So if you keep yourself so busy that you never actually get to tune into what you're thinking or feeling, then you won't be able to do this. You won't be able to be proactive about looking after your well-being. So make some space for yourself every day. For some people, that might be taking 5 minutes to meditate, but for someone else, it could literally just be slowing down and having a cup of tea by yourself without anyone else annoying you, and giving yourself those few moments to just sit with yourself. But that's really important as a daily practice to do. So the way you do it is completely up to you, but it's important that you do it. And then the very last piece is just to find the actions and the strategies that work for you in terms of looking after your well-being. So it could be that going for a walk down the beach really de-stresses you. For somebody else, it could be yoga. For someone else, it could be going out playing football with the lads. Whatever it is, something that lifts your mood, makes you feel less stressed, and takes you out of any feelings that are challenging, then make a note of what they are when you're in a good space. So make a note of the things that you really enjoy. And then when you're in a bad space, you can go back to that list and just choose one action and implement it. And that seems like a very systematic way to approach this, but it is actually the best way to approach it, because it's a system for keeping you at peak levels of well-being before you ever get into a crisis and have to address it when you're at that point. So just some tips for getting over the January blues.
Thank you very much, Creda. I know I've experienced that. It always gets a little funky this time of year until you get to spring. So much appreciated. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next Monday.
You too. Bye.
Take care.
All right. Thank you, Creator, for that. Guys, let's give her a big thumbs up over on YouTube.
Awesome.
Excuse me. Always great to hear from her and the advice she gives. All right, guys, let's get into it here, starting with low flow here, MY NX. I was looking at this one, LVGN. All right, so that's good there. Let's look at NKLA. Let's start at the top here. This is my first one on the list, NKLA. This is not a great list if I'm starting with this one. I kept scrolling up, like, wait, it's got to be something on top of this, but there's not.
Look at the chart. They've pushed their truck down the hill.
Yeah. The trucks is down the hill here using the escape ramp. Not good. All right, guys. I don't know. This is not going to be on my main list. NKLA. I'm going to put this down, guys. I'm going to remove it from here. I'd rather watch less tickers than that right there. It has great volume, guys. Just be careful. I think we could find something better, or not watch that one, period. We have Neo on deck, guys. Still light volume, down 2%. We'll keep that on there. We have Baba, which is sideways a little bit right now, but we'll see how this news. And actually, Baba tends to do this pre-market. Doesn't have great volume. We'll see how this is going to trade in a couple of minutes after the bell. PFE taken off here. Yeah, PFE is going to be interesting, guys. 828,000 shares traded right now. Normally, the stock doesn't trade very well, but in the last couple of days, they've been very active. And I have AMD taking a bit of a drop here. Is that a SPY drop or is that an AMD drop? SPY's not dropping that much, but AMD is feeling something here. Let's see if NVIDIA is on the same. Yeah, so it's just kind of the overall tech area, probably the Qs. Yeah, it's just following what the Qs are doing here. All right, guys, not the best list, but let's do some levels. Here's Neo this morning. As far as levels, we're coming up against our pre-market lows here at 30.85. So we'll slam a level right over there. And then towards the bottom, we do have a midpoint area here around 29.64 before we get to this real nice level here in the daily, which is 27.71. Look at the support you've been getting here, but you got this level there as well that has seen some action as well. Plenty of days closing, hitting that with their wicks there, that 29.64. Towards the top, guys, plenty highs and lows from the last 2 trading days are doing an amazing job. You do not need to add anything more here on the list here. Maybe you want to put in the high of the pre-market. Some of you guys might already have that auto set for you. I like to do it manually, but 31.36 high of the pre-market there for Neo. All right, next we have Baba. And again, not doing a whole lot right now, but I hope this thing can get going at the market open. 11.1766 is the low of the pre-market. The high pretty close to the previous day close. I'm not going to mark that down. The previous day close line is really what I'm going to be looking at here on this one. We're kind of stuck smack in the middle of the highs and lows from the last 2 trading days. So I'm not going to add anything else to this, guys. I think we're pretty much set on Baba here. PFE looking very good, looking to recover this morning, 863,000. Volume continues to climb here. I am going to mark down this area right here, 55.75. The reason for that is look at the resistance we had here early in the morning. And obviously right now we're struggling. We're above it, but we struggle to get above this here. So I want to have that there. That could be a good level if we do come back down and use that now as support. And no coincidence, now that I'm looking at this, you can see here, this has been an area of actually some really good resistance in the past here and these couple of days here before we had this little nice breakout there. So not a strange level to this stock and the way it's been playing in the past. So towards the top, highs and lows, last 2 trading days. Let me see if we can find a good level here. No, this is more of a minor area of support and resistance right over here. 57.57. I won't put too much weight on that. The good one here is this high of 2 days ago. Right on, that's going to be around 58, 59. You got a lot of support happening there before we had the breakdown. So 57, 57, again, minor area support resistance. Don't put too much weight on that one there. In case we were to change direction here and take a dive below the previous day close and the low of yesterday, a couple of things here. We have this one here, 52.75. And then we also have 50, all the way down here, 51.13. I don't think we'll be getting there today. Next, AMD here. AMD this morning. Let's get rid of some of the highs, some of the levels we have here, because now you can see the highs and lows are kind of overlapping some of these levels that we have. So let's get rid of those. There it is. Nice clean chart there for us. High of the pre-market this morning up to 144.18. And the low of the pre-market just being created in the last 5 minutes here at 142.76. So looking at the bigger picture on the daily, I got a nice level here, a lot of touches on this 147.77. A lot of days, using that as their previous day close in the past and bouncing off of that as well. So that's good there. And then above that, highs and lows from the last 2 trading days. Big sell-off yesterday, as many of the tech stocks had. Towards the bottom, if we're to lose the low from yesterday, let's see in here, what do we have? We got this nice area here, 138.20, and obviously all the way down here, 130. But this 138.20, that's nice there. That's very nice. You got a lot of stuff happening there, a lot of days using that as support, resistance. That could be a good one there. All right, I got 4 tickers, guys, on my list that are okay this morning. Actually, PFE looks like the better one today out of all of these. So again, not a great list so far. Let's run through these possibles. NKLA is making some noise there. Roku's pretty quiet. I'm gonna remove Roku, guys. I like that it's broke. You know what? Let's leave it. This might be the sleeper for today. Let's hope. Apple was so choppy yesterday. Let's see if today they can get some movements. Joe here. We're gonna get rid of Joe. I don't see that being good today. BYND actually. You know what? I'm gonna move up BYND. It's funny, they have good news, but they're selling right back down to this range again. And I think the only reason they're up 6.7 is because they had such a bad day yesterday. If not, they wouldn't really be gapping up as much. So let's see where this goes. BYD will move that up. Apple is okay. PDD.
Ben over on YouTube had the same question that popped in my head when I first read the news of the KFC fried chicken.
Mhm.
What are they going to use for bones? Just put a stick in there?
Yeah. Artificial stick in there.
Nylabone.
I mean, if I don't get the process. Listen, and nothing against vegetarians or anything else, but if you're a vegetarian, do you really want to eat that stuff?
Yeah, do you really? As a vegetarian, is
I wouldn't.
Megan ever going to go to KFC?
Right. Is she even going to go to KFC? Oh, I mean, she's not gonna
Is
be
it
in there.
fried in the same oil? Is it fried?
That's
I mean, I remember when I believe it was it Sikhs or it was Indians, Hindus that were upset with McDonald's because of what they were frying their fries in, and they had to change them. That was like 20 years ago because they were I believe that was some kind of animal fat or something of that sort. I wonder what
Oh
they're
yeah,
frying
yeah,
them.
yeah. That would be interesting. I mean, it's I don't know. It's just weird.
Which I mean, if your religion is that cows are sacred, frying it in something that involved cows would completely
That'd be a
destroy
no-no.
any that. So curious. Anyway,
Yep, yep. Yeah. All right, guys. Let's yeah, let's see what the moderators have this morning. And not a whole lot. Only Eamon so far. Okay, there it is. Tiffany's coming in with her list as well. Let me go ahead and resize this over here, guys. Over on YouTube, hit that thumbs up if you do like KFC. Just kidding. Just hit that thumbs up to show some support for us. We really appreciate it. Very, very much. We like to be within that 250, 300 mark. We always get like 209. So if we could break that today, that would be great, guys. By the end of the show, I usually go back and check because I don't have access to it now. But if I can go back and see 300, man, we are very, very happy. All right, let's bring this list over. Go. And what do we have, guys? So Eamon, looking at CVX, X, and also Uber, potential shorts today, Apple and TLRY. Tiffany's looking at PFE and BYND. Thor, PFE, 4, CCL. CCL was such chop yesterday. We'll take a look at how that looks today before we log off here. Lucid sold off very nice yesterday. Secondary list, BYND, PFE, and Baba. PFE twice on there, so he likes them very much this morning. Dima's looking at Apple, BYND, and AMD. Jared, NKLA, BYND, Ford, and PFE. Also watching some of the banks and energy stocks again. Yeah, the banks will be interesting. They had a big day yesterday. We'll have to see how they're going to.
Struggling to come up with something I have any conviction on. I got to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, just look at my list.
Actually, I like BYND potentially for a short, but I hate. Yeah. I just don't like the way the stock trade has nothing to do with their product. It could be anything. I just don't like the way the ticker moves.
Right, right. I agree. BYND is on our list today. I don't like the way they trade. Yeah. So we'll see what plays out here. Not the best list, but you know what? The last couple of days we haven't had a great list, and there's been a few that come up.
Decent day.
Yeah. And in some cases we trade stuff that was not even on our list. Somebody in the chat will call something out that looks great, and we'll take advantage. No SPACs or IPOs no IPOs. We do have one SPAC here, CITEU, coming out today. And Peter's list, AMD, PFE, Ford. Secondary list, CCL, West Fargo, and NKLA this morning. So
that is reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, please smash that like button. It really helps out. Thank you.
Yes, it does help out a ton, guys. All right, guys. Coming up on 9:15, I think we're all set. Recap on our list here so far from me. Neil breaking down looks very good here. Baba, we'll have to wait. Don't judge Baba too hard right now. I know it doesn't look great, but at the market open, they'll do something. They usually get the volume. And again, besides the last couple of days, they've been trading very well. So let's see what happens there. PFE looking strong right now, up 2.2, looking to break higher after 2 red days here. And again, another one that the last couple of days have been trading very well alongside Ford. I might move Ford up. If we're going to get above that previous day close line, they might do good stuff today. AMD on our list as well, not doing a whole lot right now. And we do have BYD, which actually pre-market looks very decent, Norm. I think we might jump on some of this stuff today. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining the pre-market prep. Appreciate you guys very, very much. Remember, tonight we do have our psychologies tonight. Yeah, we have psychology tonight. I believe is Mike Reed. Dr. Reed? Okay, so Dr. Reed tonight at 8, at 8 p.m., guys. So definitely check that out. And we will see you tomorrow. Trade safe, everyone.
Take care, guys. Trade safe.